Hello, we're going to be solving equations with brackets today. So for our starters, we're going to practice multiplying out some brackets. So remember, the thing that's on the outside of the bracket must multiply everything that's inside the bracket. That's why the bracket's there. So 6 times 5x is 30x, and 6 times negative 3 is negative or minus 18. Okay, so just be careful to look at signs. Okay, this one, we've got negative 4 times 2, so that's a positive 2, so that'll give us a negative 8, because remember, when you multiply two things together and the signs don't match, the answer's negative. Then we've got negative 4 times positive 3c, so that will give us negative 12c. Okay, next one. Now this 7 is nothing to do with this bracket. You don't do 7 add 2 and then multiply out the bracket, because this is just a 7 on its own, add 2 times this bracket. So we leave the 7 as it is to start with, then we multiply out the bracket. So 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times negative d is negative 2d, and then we tidy up so we can collect like terms. So we've got 7 add 6 is 13 minus 2d. Okay, and then the last one. Again, this 11 is on its own, so it goes here. And then we multiply out the bracket. Now, sometimes people find this a bit strange, multiplying a bracket out that's got nothing in front of it. But it means it's one lot of the bracket. So if you want to, you can stick a 1 in front of it and multiply it out like normal. So you've got negative 1 times 5v, so that's minus 5v. And then you've got negative 1 times negative 2. When the signs match, the answer's positive, so that's plus 2. So altogether here, we've got the 11, which is positive, plus 2, so that makes 13, and then minus 5v. Okay, so just be really careful with your signs. All right, so as I said, we're going on to solving equations with brackets today. So all we're going to do is just work our way through these equations. So I would suggest, if you want a strategy that works every time, multiplying out the bracket to start with is probably your safest bet. Okay, there are times, like with the first two questions, when you don't have to multiply out the bracket, but I would suggest that you do that, because it works with all the equations with brackets in. Okay, so first of all then, 5 times 3x is 15x, 5 times 1 is 5, and that is equal to 50. So you keep your equation, but you multiply out the bracket before you start, okay? And then if there's anything to tidy up, you should do that. But there's nothing to tidy up here. There will be in the examples down here, okay? So our first step then, if we go by what we were learning yesterday, our first step is to start trying to get the x by itself. So we need to remove this 5 first of all. So we're going to take away 5 from both sides. Okay, remember you do the opposite of what you've got. So if you remove the 5 from the left-hand side of the equation, you've got 15x left. And if you remove 5 from the right-hand side of the equation, you've got 45 left. Now, this means 15 times x is 45, so x is being multiplied by 15. So we divide both sides by 15. So if you had 15x and split it into 15 bits, you'd have x in each bit. And 45 divided by 15 is 3. Okay? So remember what we're doing. Each time, when we're solving an equation, each time we write down a new equation, we can forget what went before and just solve it like we know how to do. Okay? So the next one, we're going to do 8 times 2f is 16f. 8 times negative 3 gives us minus 24, and that's equal to 8. Okay, so now that's the equation that we're solving. It doesn't matter where that came from. Okay, so we've got a minus 24 here, so we're going to add 24 to both sides. And once we remove the 24, we've got 16f on the left-hand side, and then add 24 on the right-hand side makes 32. So again, now we've got a new equation, and it doesn't matter what went before it. So 16f, that means f times 16, so we need to divide by 16. So that gives us f equals 2. Okay, so like I say, each time you arrive at a new equation, forget what went before it and just solve the new equation. The idea is that each time you write down a new equation, you're simplifying things a little bit and reducing it to something that's a bit easier to solve. Okay, right, so on with the next one then. So again, multiply out the bracket. So we've got 6x minus 10, but also joining the 6x minus 10 on this side is minus 7. So we need to clear up a little bit before we go ahead doing anything to both sides, because you can see here we can collect like terms. We've got a minus 10 and a minus 7. So we've got 6x minus 17 is equal to 11. So then we're going to add 17 to both sides. So, like I say, just start with your new equation. So that's going to give us 6x equals 28. And that's our new equation. So now we divide both sides by 6. And that gives us x. 28 divided by 6. So 6 doesn't go exactly into 28. So if you just write it as 28 over 6 to start with, and then see what we can do with this fraction. So 28 and 6 are both in the 2 times table. So that gives you 14 over 3 if you simplify that. So that's okay to give that as your answer, 14 over 3. Or if you want to change it into a mixed number, it's 4 2/3. Okay, either that or that is fine for the answer. Then the next one, I'm going to do this one in a slightly different coloured so you can see a bit more easily what I'm doing, just so it doesn't get muddled up with that one that's on the left hand side there. So we're going to multiply out the bracket first. So 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times negative x is minus 3x, plus 18 equals 19. So you can see all we've done there is multiplied out the bracket. Then we need to tidy up the left hand side. We've got a 6 there, which is positive, and we've got a plus 18, so 6 plus 18 is 24. So we've got 24 minus 3x is equal to 19. So that becomes our new equation, 24 minus 3x equals 19. Now remember, when we looked yesterday at the end, we saw that if your letters are negative, add them to both sides, because that'll fix that. So if we add 3x to the left-hand side, they disappear from the left-hand side, leaving us with just 24. And on the right-hand side, we've got 19 plus 3x. Okay, so this is now the equation that we're solving. So we're going to take away 19 from both sides. 24 take away 19 is 5, and we've just got 3x on the right-hand side now. Then our next job is to divide by 3. So we get 5 over 3 equals x, and I can't squeeze this in. Remember to turn it round though. So it says x equals. Okay, so with this one, we leave it as 5 over 3, or we could write it 1 2/3 if we want to, but we don't need to do anything else with it. We shouldn't write it as a decimal, because 5 over 3 doesn't have an exact decimal and we'd have to round it, and therefore it would be inaccurate. Okay, keep going. Next one. Oops. So we keep the 5x, we multiply out the bracket. So plus 6 minus 4x equals 9. Tidy up the left-hand side, so this time you've got 5x minus 4x, which is 1x, and you've still got a plus 6 equals 9. And now look at this equation that we've ended up with. It's one of our one-step ones. It's very straightforward from here. So we take away 6 from both sides, and that just gives us x equals 3. And remember, for these equations, you can always substitute your number back into the question and check that it makes sense. So we found that x is 3. So if we swap the x out for a 3, then we're doing 5 times 3 is 15. Here, 2 times 3 is 6, so we've got 3 take away 6, so that's negative 3. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. So basically what we've got is 15 take away 6 equals 9. So we're right, 15 take away 6 does equal 9. Okay, and the next one. So we've got 40 minus a bracket. Now remember, from the starter questions, we can stick a 1 in front of there. That means we can multiply it out easily. So we've got 4t, and then we've got negative 1 times 3t, so that's minus 3t. Then negative 1 times negative 5 is plus 5, equals 1.6. So tidying up the left-hand side, we've got a 4t, take away a 3t, so that just leaves us with 1t, plus 5 equals 1.6. So now we take away 5 from both sides to leave us with t equals... Now, what's 1.6 take away 5? If this was not a calculator paper, you'd have to work out how to do that. Okay, so if you think about your number line, 0's here, 1.6 is there, and we have to take away 5. So by the time we get down to 0, we've already gone down 1.6. So the rest of it is the difference in between 5 and 1.6. So 5 take away 1.6 is 3.4. So the answer would be negative 3.4, because you have to go down 5 altogether. You go down 1.6 to get to 0, so then you've got a further 3.4 to go. And then, obviously, if you start off at 0 and you go down 3.4, you get to negative 3.4. Okay. And then, I think I've just got one more for us to do. So here it is. So we're going to multiply out the bracket. So that's working with the right-hand side just now. So we keep the 16 on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, there's the 8 to start with. Then 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times negative 2u is minus 6u. So we're going to tidy that up a little bit. So on the right-hand side, we can see we've got an 8 and a plus 15. So that's 23 minus 6u on the right-hand side and 16 on the left-hand side. Okay. Now, I've said before, we don't like it when the letters are negative, so we fix that before we do anything else. So we're going to add 6u to both sides. So that'll solve the fact that our u's are negative. So on the left-hand side, we'll have 16 plus 6u. And on the right-hand side now, we've only got 23. And then, sorry, I'm switching backwards and forwards between colours here like there's no tomorrow. So we're trying to get the u by itself, so we need to take away 16 now. So that leaves us with 6u on the left-hand side. And 23 take away 16 is 7. So now our job is to divide by 6. And that leaves us with u equals And remember, when it doesn't work, when your division doesn't work, write it as a fraction first. So 7/6. And if you want to, you could instead write u equals 1 1/6. Either of those is fine, but 7/6 or 1 1/6 doesn't have an exact decimal. When you look at that, it gives you 1.16666, and it might give you a 7 at the end, or it might not, depending on if it's rounded it or not. But you shouldn't be rounding that, for example, to 1.17, because that's introducing inaccuracies. Okay, so leave it as a fraction if it doesn't go in exactly. Okay, well done. See you tomorrow for letters on both sides.